with Paul Daner, Mark Shalafoo, from listener questions to some running gags. Insider stories, ambush live, that dad life and respect for flags. Kick off the weekend, all right? It's the Growler Friday Show. It's Who Dey Light.
All right, welcome into the latest edition of Who Dey Light. Paul Daner Jr., Mark Shalafoo here with you on a Friday. Happy weekend. It's spring break weekend for those of us who abide by that school schedule. Are you guys entering spring break?
We are. I like that you phrased it like that too. People that abide by that school schedule. So it's not just parents. Like if you're still living the spring break lifestyle because you follow the traditions, then yeah, go to Panama City in your 40s. Sure.
Yeah, you're at Club La Vila. Is that one still open, or do they still have episodes of The Grind with Eric Nice that they
what
go?
What kind of a life would I be living if I knew?
Yeah, I hope so. No, different school systems have different weeks that they maybe use for their spring break. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Although I do prefer the idea of grown men still abiding by spring break. We're off to a roaring start. I can tell you a Key West story. You're going to Key West here not soon. You have a whole weekend of gigs in Key West, the comedy club. So you're going at the perfect time. When I lived down there, the key during spring break was it lasted for 5 weeks. You know why? Because every week a new round of schools were on their spring break, and the spring breakers would come down. So we would in our office, we were upstanding young man in the sports office at the Key West Citizen. We had the list of all the schools that were on spring break that week, so you knew what you were looking for. Brush up on your talking points, things like that. It was great. It was great. And so I'm just saying, you're in the spring break season. You're going down there for a different reason. You might get a lot of people. You can know who might be in your crowd, though. You could have some college students that are down there on spring break in your crowd, so to brush up on like some good Michigan bits. Yeah,
really hit those with those. Cause some controversy too. That's always fun. I actually had to do a college show last night at Miami University, which was that was a real experience when you're the only one in the room that was alive on 9/11. It's a jarring feeling. But, it was fun. It's fun enough.
You could have told some Drake and Josh jokes probably, right? You could probably
have
done that in honor of our boy Charlie, who dropped some Drake and Josh on me the other day.
I know. I was just listening to that. And I was getting caught up because we did Who Dey Nights. It was fun. And so I was listening to the most recent episode, and the Drake and Josh stuff was great. Charlie just unfolds a different part of his personality every episode, and you find out a little bit more, and you're not sure if you wanted to know it or not, but you're glad you did in the end. You're always glad if it's Drake and Josh related, or the fact that he doesn't own silverware, kind of like a serial killer, but like you like learning these little facts.
No, it's an onion. We're peeling back the layers every week. Lots of that happening with Charlie, which is fun. All right, we've got a bunch of stuff to get to. We've done a lot of very newsy, I guess I would say, shows lately. We haven't been able to be as light as we've wanted to. We've been Who Dey News a little bit too much, and so we kind of want to take this episode. We've got, of course, our favorite stories of the week, and we're going to get you caught up on a little bit of the news that's out there. But since there's not as much, a little bit of a lull post T Chase bad week of free agency of nothingness where we filled your lives on Who Dey Nights. We'll get back to your questions a little bit more on this one. You have had a ton of them backlogged. So we're going to try to get through a bunch of your questions and dive into those right now. Because once we come back, we're going to start, not only will we have owners meetings, so we'll get all the information from down there. Ownership should be involved in that, but also we'll be full on into our draft section of the podcast season, where we'll be all in on that. Monday, Steve Palazzolo from 33rd Team, Check the Mic, is going to be on, formerly of PFF, of course, longtime friend of the show. He's been on here a bunch. He is awesome. He's the perfect person for what I wanted to do. I wanted to bridge the gap on the Bengals free agency, both their successes and failures there, and the draft. So where does it all fit? What they still need, what the draft looks like, some thoughts on the T Chase debate from a team building, 20,000 foot view. Great conversation with Steve. That'll be up Monday morning. So keep an eye on that. And then next Friday, Cincinnatian and former SNL member Luke Null is going to join us for a little bit, a little double comedians, and it's going to be fun. I'm excited about that.
It's good that we're trying to get some more light back onto the show after we went Who Dey dark for a while. And we had to go Who Dey news. And so now we're making an effort to bring it back to the roots, get a little bit more light in there. So Luke will be good. He's good people.
Excited about Luke coming on. And so we'll talk to him next Friday. Who Dey Light. It'll be great. What's your favorite story of the week, Mark? What you got?
Well, I want to know, and I guess this is probably, news that you're going to talk about too, but I want to know if we can get Joe Burrow in front of a camera so he can say that guard is a need. I feel like that's what we need for him to say for this team to finally get somebody to play the guard position. Maybe he needs to be more Joe Burrow, the GM, to get this one over the finish line too. Maybe he can start offering a katana to a potential free agent, get it over the line, get your sword. Who wouldn't want the Joe Burrow sword at this point?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that needs to be the pitch. Come get your sword. Or it's like he kind of has who he wants it to be, and you got to see if you can come pull the katana out of like a rock in his house, like Disney style, you can see. If you can't, sorry, Teven Jenkins, you couldn't pull the sword out of the rock, so you must go. You're not strong enough.
Humiliate him, right? If you see news that the Bengals are flying in Teven Jenkins, it's just so he can fail to pull a sword out of a rock at Joe Burrow's house. But who can pull it out? Cody Ford. He knows how to get that sword out.
How do you think he got here? Yeah, excellent at pulling swords out of rocks. So I think that's the only thing I could think of. Yeah, no, they're going to have to figure something out there. They're not in a great place when it comes to filling the guard position. They got 2 openings now. So that's great. That's what you want.
I mean, we're sort of coming out of, at least from the fan perspective, of that hangover of the Jamar and T news. It was great. It was party time. It was a lot of fun. But now I'm also starting to feel a little bit like the morning after Christmas. We're like, all right, so now what's next? What's going on here? What is the next thing to look forward to? Are we actually going to sign any of these free agents? I know we're keeping an eye on Trey. I'm back to wanting something else, Paul. It's not enough.
But it's like the morning after a Christmas where you got every gift you ever imagined and more, and then you wake up on the 26th and you say, Dad, do we have to sell our house? What happens next? Okay,
are we gonna move to an apartment because I got too many Xbox games?
Yeah. It's like, look, I mean, I love my gaming system. I got the gaming chair. I got all the headsets. I have a whole wall of rare games. You've hooked me up. And actually, the guy who invented Grand Theft Auto is now here now. He just hangs out with us. He codes new lands for me to go play on. But we're not going to live here anymore. We're gonna go. That's pretty much how the questions that you start asking yourself at this point. No, I think here's what I'll say about the guard thing, because it's not good, but I do think that you have to look at it through here's a positive lens. It's really hard to be as bad as their guards were last year. Last year, their guards were the worst in football, especially when we looked at the pass protection stuff and all of that. Alex Kappa was literally last. Cordell Volson was close to last. I mean, it was really bad. And their defense last year was pretty much as bad as it can be, right? And then those are the areas that need to get better. So there's nowhere to go but up. The improvement's right around the corner. So whoever is out there is going to be, what they're going to be? New, different. Yep. And you know what? If they're really terrible, you know what they'll be? Just like last year. And so maybe there'll be a chance that one of those groups will be a little bit better than last year, because they can't really be worse.
Yeah, yes, they could be much worse,
but probably not. Probably not worse.
even with some of the worst guard play you could have, they still had one of the best offenses. And so, there is some solace there.
It's good enough.
You kind of want it to be better. You hope that there's something. They have
There's no question.
Money.
Look,
let's
I'm
get
just
somebody
trying
in
to
here.
lighten it. I thought we were lightening it up. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to lighten it up a little bit. We're trying to keep Who Dey Light alive. All right. I'm trying to look on the bright side of life here. Don't make me whistle.
I'm the one that's keeping it light because I'm trying to set you up to like drop some huge news bomb that you just politely kept to yourself until this show. And then you can, make me happy with a bunch of guards they're going to just magically pull out of thin air. Maybe the Jermaine Pratt trade. They trade him for an all-pro guard. That would be fun. Just pull something out of nowhere.
Jermaine Pratt for Quentin Nelson. Who says no? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like that's where we're at. I think, they're bringing in, they brought in, I don't know, whenever, depends on when you're listening to this, Lucas Patrick from New Orleans. It's not sexy. It's not great. But he has played a lot. He has about 850 pass block snaps the last 2 years and hasn't allowed a sack. That sounds like something you could go for. He's not going to wow you, but that certainly would be considered better than what we saw at both guard spots last year. I think if you could get something resembling that, and a draft pick and the competition that we talked about, maybe Scott Peters is getting more out of people. You can put it together. It's not the way you would have preferred to draw it up. I will say there's sort of thought that there's a lot of really good guards out there still, and we'll see what happens with Brandon Scherff. A lot of people have asked about him. I've talked about that a little bit and wrote about it earlier this week. They're just not really sure what's going to happen next with him in terms he's 33. He's played like 3 million snaps in his life. I think he's trying to figure it out. There seems to be very little rush. There's a lot of waiting out how he feels about what he's going to do next. So there doesn't seem to be urgency there. So yes, I think he would be the best answer, has been the best answer for a while. But I think they're going to be waiting on that. So maybe he is part of it. Maybe he says, I want to go do it. I want to protect Joe Burrow. I want to try to win a ring. It sounds awesome. Or maybe he says, that's it for me. I've played enough football. Maybe he wants to go somewhere else. But I think there's a lot of waiting game with that one. Lucas Patrick in a competition is something. But the other guys that are out there, like no one's getting big dollars. Like I think there's this thought that look, there are better guards out there, and okay, maybe nominally, but like show me the contracts. I would tell you anybody that thinks they know somebody that's going to be better that's out there right now. Show me the contracts and show me how much more they got. No one's making. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some hidden gem that's about to get a $5, $6, $7 million contract, and we're just nuts. Maybe Will Hernandez is actually quietly got a bidding war going on under the scenes. Yeah. But like, these are all guys that are going to get very similar contracts, 2, 3, maybe 4 million, like at the top. Like I said, maybe I'm wrong, but the sense that's out there is that all these guys are going to get paid about the same. It's kind of like pick your flawed player. And I think they like Lucas Patrick for what he could be here. We'll see if he signs after this visit. He may have already signed if you're listening to this. But anyway, that's my guard spiel.
Is there going to be an emergency podcast for him?
Lucas Patrick is not emergency podcast worthy. I don't care how many, regardless of the stats that I just offered up. No, there's no emergency podcast. I mean, there's no guard out there that warrants an emergency podcast that doesn't come in a trade that actually has some skins on the wall. So no, that's not happening. Can I give you my favorite story?
Yeah.
So I love the Bengals dunking on all those that said they couldn't sign Jamar and T, and then those people trying to dunk back, and then the Bengals people on Twitter trying to re-dunk, and then the back and forth. It's just like another war. The screamy say anything pundits have a very much a realization that the Bengals fan base is easily irritable for engagement on Twitter and all the social platforms. And so they're like, you just say stuff about the Bengals and the numbers just go way up. They just light up. And so you now have a bunch of people out there that just like to say stuff. Now, Mike Florio has been like, look, I'm the grandfather of this concept. Okay. I've been doing this for a long time, getting after this fan base. This is what I do. Okay. All the way back to Joe
Why
Burrow
he was
doesn't want
put
to
on this
play
earth.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this
I
is
forgot
like,
that
this
tape.
is that. I mean,
Gosh,
this
that's
is
great.
chapter 1 for Mike Florio. And that's fine. Like, there's there's a lot of agents out there that don't like the teams. There's a lot of insiders out there that don't like that the team doesn't talk to a lot of insiders. So it creates a world that a lot of people out there don't like the Bengals, and they operate differently, which makes them unlikable in a lot of ways. It's just funny how something like this happens. I wonder, like, what was the social conversation behind deciding to throw the initial dunk by the Bengals people, being like, you know what, let's do it. Let's put Stephen A. and Florio and Pat McAfee and all these people out here, and let's take our shot, because you just got to be careful. You do it once is fine, but now every time you do something that's construed as cheap or didn't pay somebody, or somebody gets away, if Trey Hendrickson complains publicly again, they're going to be coming back, and it's going to be you're in this war.
Yeah,
Like, you don't need to start that war.
But it's fun because it's irresponsible a little bit, right? It's just fun to pull the receipts and be like, yeah, screw you guys. We did spend all this money on these two dudes. And then if it goes south, you're right. Those guys are going to be the first to taunt that back out and really pump themselves back up. And like, yeah, you guys are cheap. You couldn't get Trey Hendrickson, or now some of the narratives have switched to why would you pay both those guys when like 2 months ago it was they can't afford to pay these two guys. So it doesn't matter. They don't need to have a super coherent, cohesive message. It's just going to be something firing back at the team. And you're right. That is just going to kind of continue to escalate. And some fans take that very personally too. They're like, oh my God, this national guy that pays no attention to our team has said something bad about us. I'm going to lose my mind on x.com for a good 2 hours. I don't get it.
One of my biggest takeaways from all of this stuff, the media landscape is so broken, is my takeaway from so much of this. Like, from everything happening at the top, the just screamy back and forth. It's everyone is doing it on different sides, and it flips from day to day, of how one side sucks and it's so dumb. How could you do it this way? And they're cheap. Oh, wait, they're not cheap. They're just being stupid about this. And it just goes back and forth and round forever. And you said it. I mean, then people like fight upwards with all of it. And it's like, there's so little trust or news or anything, because everything that is supposed to be where you go for your information is unchecked spewing of whatever, that's half truths half the time, and just stuff to provoke. It's been like this forever, but it just seems like it just continues to progressively get worse and worse. And you see it when you're on the ground floor here. And like, we've been talking about this story trying to logically for such a long time, like years. We feel like we have a good understanding. And then you just see people parachute in with fire hot takes and all this stuff and it just flows both sides. You're like, man, it's kind of all been out there. We've kind of been talking about this and how this decision has been weighed and what they've been trying to do for a long time, but it doesn't matter. It just gets thrown into this whole firestorm of mess. And it's hard to watch. It's hard to see it happen like that. I don't know. That's my soapbox, I guess.
Yeah, it's a fractured media scene, but that's also what allows stuff like this to kind of find its niche in our audience and give people an alternative to that. When you do have those people that are just parachuting in with their hot takes and really what some of that is probably, a personality was out too late the night before. He's like, oh, I've got to get a show together. What am I going to do? I got to work late. So I'm just going to say, is Joe Burrow elite? And then that's going to carry us for 2 hours, and that's going to save your day. And that's all it is for some people, but not us.
Yeah.
That's not what it is.
No, we try not to be. We try not to be. We try to be logical and rational, and we have our moments here, and we've certainly fired off our fair share of takes. but we try to be as logical as we can and try to be as real as we can with it. It's not always easy to do, but it's just, and there's a lot of good ones out there. So I hate like broad brush painting on that, because there are a lot of really good national voices and reporters, and I hope people give those people the attention, because there are a lot of good ones. There's just so much more of the rest, and it's so much louder than everything else. It just makes it really hard to keep it all out, keep the rest of it out. You know what you don't have to keep out, though? You know, you
What's
don't
that?
ever have to keep out? Eric Sztanyo, our guy.
That's
Keller
right.
Williams. And you know why? Because you want him in. Because you know what he's trying to do? He's trying to give you guys Cincinnati Bengals season tickets. Growl pals.
Let's go.
I mean, Sztanyo has just been the gift that keeps on giving, and he's never given like this before, and he's been very nice and generous. This is a 4-pack of Cincinnati Bengals 2025 season tickets, not a game ticket, not one of those up at the top that someone says, hey, come win some tickets, and next thing you know, you're up in the corner and you're like, feel like you might be falling out the side into the river. No. 4-pack of Bengals season tickets they're giving away on March 25th between 10 a.m. and 2 o'clock. You have to call this number to register, 513-202-3589. That's 513-202-3589. And they're going to be giving away a 4-pack of Bengals season tickets March 25th between 10 and 2. Call that number and register. And those can be yours, courtesy of our great friend Eric Sztanyo and his clan-yo over at Keller Williams. He's got the number one real estate YouTube channel in Cincinnati. You know that, at Team Sztanyo. You should be subscribing to that. If you want to hit him up directly, info@teamsztanyo.com, www.teamsztanyo.com to connect with them. If you got any real estate questions, you know somebody that's buying or selling, it's that time of year. Talk to our guy. He's got Growl Pals on board. We had a Growl Pal sale a couple of weeks ago. So, or you just want to get these tickets, hit him up. He's the dude. I mean, look at this. What a deal.
Yeah. Keep it in the family. That's what we say. Keep
That's right.
supporting the Growl Pal family here, and that's what he is. And he's giving back 4-pack of season tickets. That's awesome. You know,
it is awesome. That is
big.
a special number for Growl Pals, by the way. So that's a number that's delivered to us to give to you guys here that listen and watch this podcast. So thank you to Eric Sztanyo and everybody at Keller Williams. Really make sure you give them the love and get signed up, and maybe you'll win some tickets. It'll be good for you. All right. On that note, questions, right?
Questions. Let's do it. We're going to start with a guy from Texas. He says, a few years ago, Zach Taylor was all in on drafting character guys, team captains, a departure from decades of Mike Brown, the Redeemer. Last year, they drafted Jermaine Burton, and Duke Tobin said no lessons learned from that, which seems very underreported and incredulous. This year, some defensive line guys are rated really high, but with character issues, 1 or 2 will probably be on the board when the Bengals draft. Do the Bengals turn back to the Mike Brown Redeemer team and pick one of them? How do you feel about that? Also, how do you feel that you underreported that whole, message from Duke Tobin that he didn't learn his lesson or any lessons?
I don't disagree. There was a lot going on at that time, and in that particular day, that was a lot. Things were said that day, and it did kind of get lost in the wash a little bit there. I would have liked to have gone more into that. Yeah, I'll own that. I posted it and you heard it here on the podcast, but I didn't write a whole story on that statement. I feel like that's something I'm planning on bringing back out in draft season. This is a great question. This is a story that's in my notes I got the notes in my phone that has story ideas for whenever. Well, the idea of how the Burton pick will affect this year's draft is definitely on there, and I probably shouldn't have just spilled that into a microphone for all my competitors to hear, but there it is. Just sloppy by me at this point.
No, let them have it. We'll see who the best story is that you can all have.
It doesn't matter if you're second. Nobody reads the second one just because it was better.
Sure they do. They appreciate
they do.
it.
You like to think that, but it's not as true as you want it to be. You're lucky if they read past the headline or the tweet. You know,
Yeah, but you get
people
credit
don't like
for the
to
click.
read, Mark. They don't.
I hope they like
They
to
don't.
listen, because good thing you've got a podcast.
They do.
You know, you write, but they do like to listen. So
They do like to listen. That's why we pod. That's why we pod.
Who are the edge guys with character issues? What it's
Mike
Pierce
Green
or something?
Yeah, Mike Green, James Pierce have popped up. Actually, I've already recorded my interview with Steve. That's going to air Monday. We talk about that on Monday a little bit more, so make sure you check back in on that. But Pierce, Green, Walter Nolan has a little bit of that popping up right now. It's going to take some vetting, so we'll see. I think this is an excellent question. I'm really curious the answer as I start asking around beyond what you heard from Duke about. Yeah, no lessons learned there. You understand the risk. It's a risk that you take. What risks are they willing to take? I think that you're going to see them be a little less willing. I think there's a little bit of a never again with some of that stuff. But Jermaine was so unique. Like, it's just usually off the field stuff is a little clearer, which is a weird thing to say. Jermaine's was so obscure that nobody really quite knew how to get a grip around it. The only thing that you heard a lot from people last draft was like, he's just different, right? You just gotta, and so it's like, okay, well, you can work with that and put him in this room with Jamar and T, and Troy Walters is so good. And I mean, it can help straighten everything out. He's just different, and we'll see if he gets it together. But like, it's a different type of character risk than most of the stuff you're talking about with these guys. But I do think there is a little bit learned there of understand, just don't accept that as much. You know, I would think that there's a part of that. But that said, Duke has made it pretty clear that that's a risk that they're evaluating, and they're not going to just throw it out. So it's a great question you ask, and I don't have an answer yet, but I will probably be writing and talking about it during draft season.
I mean, you talked earlier about the social team pulling some of those receipts about what people said about, you know, the big deals. This probably goes along with that. I don't know that the front office is probably still digging the whole pounding the hand on the table because they're so excited about Jermaine Burton, and then you flash forward to begging him to get out of the casino so he can read his playbook. You know, I can see how that might affect you going forward in the draft.
I did see somebody tweet something about when Jamar talked about how it kind of started down the path of there's nothing to do in Cincinnati, and he's not distracted, and he's all about football here. And somebody put something of like, imagine Jermaine Burton reading this tweet. It's like, have you seen the slot machines?
They got casinos here.
There's casinos. There's so many things to do. So many activities.
All right, here's another question that's interesting. This is from Larry regarding the guard situation. Any chance they have Matt Lee play center and move Ted Karras to guard? Then they only need one new guard, and they can get him in the draft. Could that be their thinking?
That's not their thinking. I don't think they have any plans to do that. I think Matt Lee would have to prove himself to actually be good and an answer at this point. I don't know how much more comfortable you feel with Matt Lee than any of the other guys on the roster, the Cody Fords and the Jackson Kirklands of the world. They're all on, you know, the guys in the back of that battle. I mean, Cody Ford's more proven than Matt Lee. Matt Lee had a good preseason game, right? He's a 7th round draft pick. If Matt Lee has an unbelievable preseason again, I shouldn't say again. He had a really good preseason. If he has an unbelievable preseason and you're like, golly, man, Matt Lee's got to play. I think we found something. It's different. He's not there yet where you would do something like move Ted Karras, who's like the ultimate leader on your team and your line and has been doing it Burrow's center for this long. It would take a lot for something like that to happen. They'd have to be in pretty dire straits for that to happen. That's not the plan. It's not a plan that I've ever heard legitimately discussed that they would do. Matt Lee would have to be incredible in camp and in preseason for them to even start having conversations like that.
All right, so let me hit you with another guard question. Which of these 3 scenarios would you guess is the most likely? That the Bengals have been paralyzed because of the T and Jamar situation not being resolved, that they were talking to some guards that they liked, but ownership was lowballing them, so nobody was really interested in coming here. Or the new offensive line coach really likes the players that we have here already in-house, and so they feel comfortable just taking another guard in the draft.
So which is most like it's not the last one. It's not that they're like, oh, all of these dudes are stars.
Jackson Kirkland is a stud.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
He just
hope.
needs a
I mean,
chance.
we heard hope
Yeah.
when you talked to Scott Peters at the combine. I mean, there was definitely hope. Volson was a name that elicited hope. But I don't think it's that. I think it's a combination of the first two, probably, where those receiver Chiggins. Are we doing that? Are we doing Chiggins?
No, we're not doing Chiggins. I even, I avoided saying it because I'm like, we're not making that a thing. It's not a thing. We're not going to be the Chiggins show.
No.
Can't be the first one to drop it. No.
Wouldn't it be Chaggins more?
Now we can do Chaggins. I'm back on board for Chaggins if that's what you want to do. You want to do Chaggins? Yeah, we're there. But no, Chiggins we're out on.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that. I think there's a little bit of being paralyzed by that. That was a big thing. I mean, there was a lot going on there, and I mean that's a shame if that's truly the case. But it did seem like that was a part of it. And then, lowballing. I think there's a part of the fact that they weren't going to be spending big in this free agency. They weren't going to pay for what Will Fries got didn't he get like 20 million from the Vikings? He was the dude. Crazy. I mean, he was probably the top guy out there. The tape is good. But they weren't going to go in that direction. They weren't going to get anything like that for a guard. I mean, they broke the bank with Alex Kappa at like 8 or whatever it was. I mean, that was crazy for them. I'm not saying what I would do. I'm not speaking on any of it. I'm just saying for them, they're not going there, especially at a time where they're feeling strapped by all the other deals that they have to do. So I think 1 and 2 that you mentioned there are probably a combination, and 3 is a pretty big boot.
I mean, and even if it's not exactly that scenario, it's still fine to be paralyzed in that number one scenario. Like getting Chase and Higgins secured for long-term deals, that's going to be way more beneficial to your offense than getting one of those middling guards that you talked about.
But you can't let that botch free agency for you, though. Like, you got to have a
botch. Those guys are still there. They just waited an extra week. They're still there.
No, no, they're not. Anybody,
all the boring guys you listed
comes and goes. It's it. You either got them or you didn't.
Teven Jenkins, that's who they missed out on, who Charlie doesn't like anyway. So who cares?
Yeah, Charlie was the first one to tell you that Teven Jenkins ain't the guy. I will say that. I will credit it on that. Way back on our guard show. You can check the timestamp and the tape on that one. That was like over a month ago.
But yeah, he was early.
He was early on it. What else we got?
All right, next question. This one is, here we go. Mark and Pauly D. I bet you're relieved to do a podcast that isn't about nothing, although those can be fun. A couple weeks ago, Paul said the Bengals were good at drafting players on offense except for the offensive line. Isn't that kind of like your friend Eric Sztanyo saying it's a good house except it doesn't have a roof or indoor plumbing? Anyhow, if Volson and Ford are the starting guards, how many games does Burrow survive?
I mean, he survived all of them last year. I'm just going to go
it'll be okay.
It's not great. Again, it's not great, but the framing of this, of what happens now? The same thing that happened last year? I don't know. He could maybe win MVP. Having it, the difference, Charlie was alluding to it being potentially built like the 0-1 line. I just think it's so much the solid nature of your tackle situation, and they're an injury or two away from it being a disaster. Their depth you're worried about.
Yeah,
there's time for that to get fixed between whatever you can still find out there in the draft, but having what you have at tackle, you would think Orlando Brown, if can pick up and play now that he's healthy, play like he was the beginning of last year. I mean, Pro Bowl level. Amarius Mims could be a Pro Bowl right tackle. They didn't have anything resembling that in 2021. Okay. Having that alone, and Karras is solid. Having that alone makes things so much easier. You know, if they draft, let's use a name that we see a lot, and I think that's going to be really important one to follow. Tate Rutledge from Georgia.
Georgia, yeah.
Played next to Mims, right, in college. He's got a mullet, so we love that. Wore number 69, and he seems like a guy who would definitely want to pick number 69. Okay. Love that, right? If it's him and it's Mims and it's Cody Ford or Lucas Patrick on the other side, like I feel better about that than what we saw last year with Kappa and Volson out there. I do. And so to say that what's going to happen now, there's time for it to come together and it be better than last year. It should not be in this spot. And maybe they still get Brandon Scherff. Like that's still possible. You'd like to have something better already in place. They don't. They blew that. But I think that the doom and gloom nature that we hear about it, I don't think is totally the case yet. They obviously have a lot to do there, but I think you're gonna see 2-3 more bodies in this mix that can change the dynamic of the conversation.
Which leads us to a good next question here from Noah. So he's got a two-part question. First, how much cap space do we think they still have to work with? And I know there are some moves that they could do to probably free up a little bit more. But if they could add a pair of free agents, who would you, Paul Dehner Jr., add? Now you have to speak about what move would you actually make now, not what you think they're going to make. What should they do? What would you do?
Well, what would I do? I mean, what's out there isn't. I don't know that you're going to change anything. With what you do, I don't really care about who the guard is. And I mean that in that I think to me they all seem same-ish. They're all problematic. Yeah. They all come with issues. So I don't, and I do. I think their contracts will all bear that out. So I'm not like multiple. I'd take multiple swings. Dalton Reisner, Will Hernandez, Lucas Patrick. Why not bring them all in here for $2 million a piece, not guaranteed, and have the true Royal Rumble. Do it like actual Royal Rumble style. 30 guards. Come out.
Anyone who's played guard, come into the ring.
And we set up a ring, okay, with ropes, and literally whoever's the last man standing, like they can sell tickets out on the practice field, and they just do it. You want these guys with a wrestling background anyway, right? You always hear that about offensive linemen. So we go true Royal Rumble style, and have all of those, and like in John Cena. That's who it'll be. 29 guards and John Cena on the Bengals practice field for a true Royal Rumble to see who's going to play.
And then you sell tickets to this event, and with all the money you raise, you spend that on a second card. So that way you get one Rumble guy and then one.
Well, that's how you're paying for that winner's contract. That's how you're paying for that winner's contract. Yeah, that's
all right. That makes sense then.
Yeah.
What about the other side of the ball? Is there anybody else that you would think that they should make a move on free agency, shore up a different position, cornerback maybe, or I don't know if there's any real difference makers left out there.
There's some. I mean, I think Kazir White, they could use a guy who could start at linebacker.
Yeah.
So he's one that stands out just because he's started and can play linebacker. You get a feel for them very much eyeing safety in this draft as the reason why Geno Stone is still here. So doing like a Justin Simmons type move, like a safety that's out there as a free agent, because there's still some decent ones out there, doesn't make as much sense if their true plan is to draft the safety of the future that could maybe beat out Geno Stone in camp, if that's what they're thinking. We saw Nicky Manwari is on a top 30 visit for them. and he's projected to go around their pick in the first round. That's notable. We're going to be talking about that a lot over the next month. That says, hey, we're looking at the safeties in round 1. You got to think Malachi Starks from Georgia will end up in that conversation too. That's an interesting development there. That kind of is a little bit of a giveaway on maybe where their plans are there. So you're not, maybe veteran free agent safety isn't on the mind, but I would consider that. Just because I don't, I'm not totally comfortable with Geno Stone being the only guy there. So yeah, those are probably a couple of directions that I would be going. I would have had more interest. I would have been trying to sign Azeez Ojulari, who signed with the Eagles,
for like $4 million
and add some edge rush. But obviously, their silence there at edge rush really. They bring back Osai, obviously, but their silence at edge rush speaks louder than them actually saying what they've said on repeat, is that Myles Murphy needs to play more. They've said it in 8 different ways now. Myles Murphy's starting, and he's playing a lot. He is who they're going for as their answer. They're like, we put a first round pick in this guy. We believe in this guy. We believe the reason he hasn't produced is because he did not play enough. He needs to play. He's gonna play. We're not signing a free agent edge rusher. We are, we're not going that direction. We're gonna believe in him, and it almost to the point that it makes you wonder if that would push edge rusher at 17 down the table. As much as they seem to be in on Myles Murphy, like just you read that, it's like, well, okay. Whereas they'd say we'll put a 2nd round pick or a 3rd round pick behind Myles Murphy, but we believe in this guy. It's just been so loud and clear. I mean, it's almost like I'm the guy back there.
Yeah,
my guy. It's just screaming 10 sacks into Duke Tobin's office.
Maybe they feel bad about that. They're like, you know what? We just didn't give him enough of a shot. This guy had to take all the arrows because Murphy didn't get his 10. Let's clear the runway for him so he can finally get his chance.
There's still hope.
You ready for another question?
I'm ready.
This is a fun one. So we've got somebody who has a theory that maybe Mike Brown is a secret genius. He says, am I wrong in thinking the Bengals' aversion to dead money is paying dividends here? According to overthecap.com, most NFL teams have enough dead money to offset most, if not all, of T's cap hit. Meanwhile, the Bengals carry almost no dead money. It doesn't seem like enough people are mentioning this as part of the conversation. Do you agree? Could being the anti-Eagles from a cap management perspective actually be a secret power? That is from Tony.
I think it's a good point. I mean, it's overrated. I mean, the Bengals overrate having dead money, I think. But they're not wrong. I mean, there is value that can be had by being a low dead money team in terms of having cap space to use on the team. They need to embrace the sunk cost method a little more so, and understand that there's times where dead money, it's not that big of a deal, and there's ways to offset it. 100%. The way they structure their contracts to give them flexibility to get out of them and leave minimal dead money is part of what helps them be able to do what they did this year, and will continue probably doing with some other guys that they'll cut dead weight on. I mean, a lot of the moves that they've made have been because of the way they've structured those contracts. I think there is some truth to that for sure, and I think it has helped them. When you look at them trying to figure out how to do the cap aspect of this, and they take pretty good care of that part. It's the rest of it of finding the other ways to win on the margins that aren't quite as good, and probably overvaluing dead money a little bit. So I don't know about like if they're fooling everyone with that, but there are, no one's saying there aren't some advantages to having low dead money. No one's saying that. It's just it's not a massive deal.
Yeah, it's not that much of a game changer. That makes sense. Let's finish this up with a nice little run, pass, or boot for you. The Bengals are going to need to address heavily in the draft. They only have 6 picks. So run, pass, or boot, the trade back for extra picks. Would you go with the round 1 pick, the round 2 pick, or a day 3 pick? What's most likely for trading back to get an extra player?
I would, I mean, you'd prefer round one. You're going to get more back in return. I think this draft sets up, there's not 17 round one type players. I don't think it's better in the middle than it is at the top. But the problem is like, someone's got to have someone they're trying to come up for. And that feels unlikely. Now, they have made a habit, and it is Duke Tobin's favorite move, to move back in round 2 and add a 4 or move up some way. That's how they did the Hubbard pick years ago, by moving back in the second and moving their 4th round pick further up so they could get somebody they targeted, something like that. I mean, that certainly would make sense. It's something they typically do. They like to do it. I could see that happening. Rounds 3 through 6, I don't think you're going to make a ton of headway. And maybe they do, but I would say, that it's more irrelevant there. They're probably just picking. Round 2 is the main one there. I'd run with that one. You'd wish round 1, but I don't know that anybody. You never know. Maybe there's somebody, but it seems doubtful that someone's going to be like begging to come up.
Yeah.
Yeah, at that spot. It's a weird spot to try to do that at. You never know though.
Right. It does always sound better from like the Bengals perspective of like, yeah, there's some great guys we love in the 20s. It'd be awesome to get another great pick for later in this draft. Absolutely, let's do that. But you need that willing trade partner that's going to be like, I'm yearning to have, James Pierce Jr. at this spot. I have got to give up a huge pick just to get my guy. I don't see it.
I want to ambush light you. Light you here. This is sort of just, I'm kind of setting you up here. This was an email that someone sent, and I'm not going to say their name because I think it was an accident or a typo. It was about the growler. It was somebody who was having trouble finding the bracket challenge, which, thanks to all the people that are in the bracket challenge, we're giving away 2 greater shipper packs now because so many people entered. Said, hey, Paul, what's the group ID number? The Growler Podcast Bracket Challenge. It won't let me search by name. Thanks. Thank you all for everything you do to your bodies. What do we think that means? Do we look that bad to your bodies?
Yeah, I think it means that this podcast has taken an emotional and physical toll on us. And he's saying thank you for really putting yourself out there and just really taking that bullet. That's a little bit disturbing, I think, actually. Thank you for everything that you're doing to your bodies.
Do I look that bad? Is it like, are people watching this on YouTube and are like, this man has let himself go? The free agency and the Bengals they're killing him. You can see it. He looks like a heart attack. Like, is it that bad? Is it that obvious?
That's what's happening here. People are like, if Paul has to do 2 more nights of Houday nights, this guy is going to keel over dead. He is really, it's not like we're out here roofing or, doing hard construction labor. We're just guys talking into microphones. It's okay. It shouldn't have this much of an effect on our bodies, but I do appreciate that people seem to be alarmed for our physical well-being. That's always important. I like to know that people care, they're just trying to be supportive in their own ways. I think every emailer should sign off with that. Thanks for what you're doing to your bodies.
I can't remember if I ever told you about this. People that listen back in the live room days remember this, but when the end of Hear That Podcast Growlin' times, they had set up these live rooms to go in, and after a game, I would just go in by myself into a live room and talk about the game, and then people would ask me questions. And something was wrong with the hook up in the live room with the audio or with my AirPods, or something was wrong with it. And we did this, and it sounded I got multiple emails from people who are like, I'm a doctor. You sounded like you were going to have a stroke. Like you sounded like you were stroking out or something. Are you okay? People were really concerned. And I was like, I mean, thank you. I've never felt better that if something was really going wrong, I know that the Growl Pals like legitimately have my back. Like they're gonna get me in touch with doctors to help me. That was very kind. But
That is
then it was
kind.
like, it sounded that bad. And so I'm glad I was able to get to the bottom of the audio thing and that it wasn't me. Very relieved to find out it wasn't me. It was that. But this reminds me of that. It's good to know there's concern out there.
Yeah, maybe we need to be dressing differently. Maybe that's part of it. It's like we look like we're weary after having to do 4 consecutive shows, like maybe that's
We're
part
all
of it.
right.
We need to clean up a little bit, throw some suits on for next Dey Light, really class up this a little bit. But we appreciate the email.
Speaking of classing it up though, where are you classing it up? Where are you hitting count
to? Great segue. Should have been prepared for that. No, I'm going to Raleigh tonight at the Cary Theater. That is sold out, but there might be 1 ticket left. So maybe I could sneak you in if you're somebody that lives in North Carolina and wants to go. Saturday night, I am in Asheville, North Carolina, closing out the Don't Tell comedy show there. That is going to be an awesome one. So get tickets if you live in Asheville. Then I'm coming to Hamilton, Ohio, all the way to Hamilton, April 3rd at something
at
called
Jay's
the
house.
Hub or
Are you
something.
doing it live from Jay's porch?
I should. That would be a great show. We could then also just like simulcast it live on the feed, turn it into an episode. That would be a good time.
Yeah, or at least we know where the after party's going to be.
Exactly. Yes. And everybody's invited. Any Growl Pal that wants to come out to that show afterwards, we're all going to Jay's house.
Let's
not tell them about this.
Jay's house at midnight.
Yeah, we just lead a procession of people down the streets of Hamilton to Jay's house. So that's April 3rd. So we'll do that. And then April 12th, I'll be in Richmond, Indiana. And then April 23rd through 26th, Comedy Key West in Florida.
Love it. Love it. You know what? I'll see if I can. I wonder if my guy, this is way off top. I wonder if my guy Rick Lopez is still doing radio down there on 1600. They would do live broadcasts of all the Key West high school baseball games.
Really?
They did it from on top of a concession stand at the stadium.
Like
on the roof. That. It was like, I mean, truly the most dangerous thing I've done in my career was going to do a pregame and like a second inning hit on the radio show that was atop a roof of the concession stand at a high school baseball game. No railings, like slanted. You had to go out the window and then like around the corner and like go down. There was like a rickety chair waiting on you that you probably were better off standing. But then they had a live show that they did from this car dealership right on the water at 5:00 every day. And I would always love, it was beautiful. You're just like watching the cars go by and the boats go by and it's just right on the water. It was awesome. Maybe we can get you on there. Maybe I can get you on and see if my guy Rick is still doing shows down there. 1600 AM.
Now that is a thank you for what you're doing to your body's message right there. If you're going to put yourself in risk, maybe that's what's missing from year 2 of our show is maybe we should just do it in increasingly more dangerous situations, and just keep upping the ante a little bit until we're finally just doing a show live in a shark cage or something like that.
Well, I nominate Mo because he checked in from a very frightening parking lot multiple times. He shows up in a lot of weird locations. So I think he's the one that I want to see in the most dangerous spots. Yeah, shark cage.
That's the problem though, because you don't know, is Mo in dangerous spots or is he just in dangerous spots because he's the one making them dangerous? It's like he always shows up in these mysterious garages. Maybe he's the one that we need to be on the lookout for. Who knows?
Good point. Excellent point. What's going on in dad life with you?
For me, it was no, I can't do that one. I'm going to mention this instead. So I have having a third child. It's what I enjoy the most right now is just when you still see those old retro hand-me-downs that actually made it all the way from the first kid down. That's have I talked about this before? I feel like I did.
Yeah. I think
okay, good. But I should have deleted it from the rundown. That's where
you got to delete it from the rundown.
Yeah, I'm like, no, okay.
Well,
Well, the other one, I have another
why don't
one.
you talk about the other one?
I'm going to. I'll go right to
Oh,
the other
okay.
one instead because I looked at it first and I was like, I shouldn't bring that one up. I'll go to this other thing. And then it's like, no, wait, I do feel like now that I'm talking about it, I feel like I did do this before, but that's okay because it's Dey Light. Sometimes you're gonna mess it up and do an
Let it
old
ride.
take. So my daughter had her birthday party with her friends, right? So she was turning 12, and so she was so excited, right? She was excited to like tell all her buddies, it's my birthday this week. It's my birthday. And one of the kids in her class was like, oh, what kind of party are you gonna have? A Diddy party? What kind of 12-year-old? What life are you living when that is on your radar as a 12-year-old, that you're just hip to all the stuff going on in the Diddy trials and tribulations, and like no child should be up to date on that stuff. And also like
No.
that's not even, it's just like the way he explained it, because she didn't know what a Diddy party was. She's like, I don't even know what that is. And he said, well, Diddy takes immature people and does the thing with them. That was the description that he had for it. So he is at least a little bit aware. But yeah, I mean, like, what kind of kid is going to be, oh, where are you going on vacation this summer? Epstein's Island? Like, that shouldn't be on your radar, child. What wormholes are you getting into? We're mad at people for paying attention to Mike Florio's troll tweets, but like, this is so much worse that the kids are getting into.
I love the idea of like, at the kids' party where they have the bags of party favors and it's just like, oh, it's baby oil. Huh. How about that? I wasn't expecting that. All right.
What kind of party is this? Oh no.
What party is this? It's a Diddy party. It's what we do. Everybody gets stuff right with.
So I was shocked that it's on the radar for sixth graders.
That is shocking. Wait, good for you. Tell the Diddy party joke. I like the Diddy party joke.
Maybe I'll do it.
All right, I have a little bit. This is a little bit of a conclusion of a past story for the real ones that might remember this episode. You remember when my chair broke?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I did episodes for like 2 weeks in a broken chair. Okay.
Yeah.
I was riding real low. I'm up much higher now, much more comfortable. It's in a better spot. But
thank you for what you're doing to your body.
Yeah. Obviously, again, just another reminder of letting myself go. The chair had broke. It was a very old chair, in fairness. I think it was less me, more chair. Or at least is what I'm telling myself. And so it was problematic. Well, it was a chair that my kids loved. This is probably why it broke. They loved that I would spin them in it. It was good for, they had extra space, extra wide. They could both fit in it. And they'd come up here and I'd mess with them and spin them around in circles until they'd like fall off or something, right? They thought it was the greatest thing ever. So when my chair broke and I told them, oh, I bought a new chair, it's going to be here soon. I said, that chair, it will be yours. I'll put it in the playroom in the basement and you can spin all you want and we'll spin you down there where it's softer on the ground. And so you won't hurt yourself as many times. And it'll be great. So the chair comes, it's in this massive box and, I'm busy. I don't have time to get to it. So I just shove it in the room next to my desk and I go about my life. Right. Well, the next day, I have both girls after school. I'm making dinner and doing this and that. And I don't hear from them for a long time. And I'm like, okay, the silence went from being nice to being concerning. What is going on here? And then I'm like, well, all right, I'm going upstairs. I'm going to see what's going on. And they're not in their rooms. I go to my room. I go to open it and the door doesn't hardly open. I stick my head in and my 7-year-old has an Allen wrench and the bolts out and is putting together, assembling the chair because
that's awesome.
The sooner that chair gets assembled, the sooner the spinny chair is theirs. And my little one, my 5-year-old is trying to like get the wheels in the bottom by putting them in and clicking them over correctly. And they're not quite getting in there. And I'm like, they were halfway through the construction. Like I was really impressed when I actually went back to put it together. I was like, wow, They got 2 of the bolts in. The Allen wrench is right here doing the third one. It kind of got stuck. They got 1 of the wheels in. They got the back connected correctly. Who knew? I wasn't expected to be seeing this kind of craftsmanship happening in my room. It was truly stunning. They were just like at the workbench, getting stuff done, putting Dad's chair together. It was a really good sign of the times.
That opens up a whole nother world.
It's in great shape. It's a great chair.
You're bouncing up and down in it. If you're only listening to this, Paul is really taking this chair and he's putting through the works, and it's holding up.
I'm really giving it to it. Really,
this is opening up a whole new world for you now. I'm just envisioning like a summer of like IKEA sweatshop in your house, as you get these kids assembling stuff and just really taking that off your plate for you. That's going to be huge for you. That's going to pay off down the line for sure.
Next step, new deck. Girls, let's go. We're gonna redo the deck. All right?
Yeah.
Get after
Wait till they can get up on the ladder.
Hammers and screws and
you guys want a swing set? Build it yourself.
Go build it. That's right. So anyway, kudos to them for getting it started. So, and kudos to everybody for that got into the growler bracket. It's good to have you all in there, and we'll see where you end up. 2 grader shippers. They will be graders worthy for the top 2 on the list. We'll be sending those out here once the attorney concludes. So thanks everybody that got into that. And
send them a Growl Pal shirt too, and kind of let's get all our sponsors involved. A Sztanyo hat or a house. Get the Growl Gals to, I don't know what they can.
We could get a bar session. We could get, they've got the discount on the 2-week unlimited session down there. So maybe we could get a hookup on that. We could probably.
You do me a favor. Make that happen. The next time, because I heard the Growl Gals on the show did a great job. Love having them around. Can you ask them if they have a tactful way that you can gift somebody exercise classes? Because you're talking about like the birthdays, this and that. That's a real touchy one to be like, surprise, I got you a gym membership. Put down the fork, ask them if they got like a tactful way that you could approach a significant other. Because we have a lot of guys that listen to this show, and it would make a great birthday gift or something like that for your significant other. But they might need a little schooling in how you would approach that as a gift giving gesture.
They're as much about mindfulness and taking care of your entire self and getting yourself mentally, emotionally, and physically in the spot you want to be in. It's not just about, put down the fork. I wouldn't go with put down the fork. I think I'd probably
we can rule that one out. We can take that one off.
I want you to have some time for yourself.
That's a good message.
I think that's probably the one, but I'll ask. I will ask.
Thank you.
When we talk next time we talk to them, next Wednesday's show, we'll get to that with them. So, all right, that'll do it for us. Thanks everybody for listening. Hope you all have a great weekend. Enjoy the games. Enjoy the tournament, and enjoy your guard speculation if that's your thing. I hope you enjoy all of it. So, have a good one, everybody.